Hello my Seyo Knights, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking about Sword Art Online and the beauty of loneliness. And I know what you're going to say, not only am I going to be talking about Sword Art Online in a positive light, but the fact that I'm mentioning loneliness, something that is very undesired by many people, as something that is positive, well, yes, and I'm going to take some time to explain. But first, if we go to the definition of loneliness here, it is the sadness felt because one has no friends or company. So pretty self-explanatory there. Words similar to that are isolation, friendlessness, lack of friends and companions. You get the idea. It's not a good thing. You have no one around you. You have no social circle. And because of that, it puts you in that state of mind of feeling bad, right? Because you don't have that personal connection with others. And that within itself is a bad thing, don't get me wrong. But here's where I think you can spin loneliness to be a little bit more positive, because I believe loneliness can be also seen as an indicator. And what do I mean by that? It is an indicator for change. And if you look at it in that way, you can see being lonely as a way to work on yourself. And this is where it ties into Sword Art Online, because if you remember watching the first season of Sword Art Online, Kirito is a loner. And I know everyone who loved him growing up, including me in high school, we all got looks because we're like, yeah, we love Kirito. And yes, he is a self-insert, but man, I love the Black Swordsman to death. The fact that he works alone, he's known as a solo player, is an indication of him being lonely. But why do we have this wish fulfillment then? Why do we all want to be Kirito then? And I think it really boils down to how Kirito takes loneliness and him being lonely and turns that into a positive. And that is by working on yourself to appreciate the times that you have by yourself. And I know that's a little bit weird. It's a little bit complicated, but let me explain a little bit better for you. Just because you are by yourself doesn't mean you have to feel sad. And just because you are by yourself doesn't mean that you cannot be productive. I think loneliness, especially in times when you aren't being social or hanging out with friends, or say you just are by yourself because, it's raining outside, no one wants to go outside, and you're just by yourself. Or, there's some circumstance where you have to be by yourself for a couple hours before you can start talking to people. I think during these times, it's very important to learn to love the time you have with yourself. And that could be just being appreciative of just hanging out and being relaxed. Or it also could translate to really just enjoying your own personal time. And what Kirito does in the show is kind of similar in that regards. He is a solo player and he socializes a lot. He is not lonely for a good portion of the show. But there are times where he's by himself and he has to do his own thing. How does he do it? Well, it's just the matter of being confident within your own abilities and learning to appreciate the time that, you have just relaxing. And it could be as simple as, going to listening to music while by yourself and just enjoying that presence of listening to the lyrics and just thinking about all these positive memories, or dreaming too. Dreaming is a huge component of just accepting the feeling of being alone and really appreciating, that you have control over your own dreams. And once you do that, that becomes such an asset for you in life, because if you can accept being alone, you can translate that into your social interactions. By being productive, you have the chance to really showcase that despite you being by yourself, despite you feeling lonely at times, you can still find ways to enjoy your company and burn time and just have a good time, whether that is within your own hobbies, or if it's like rather a better way of putting it is just focusing in on a creative task, such as writing or drawing, or even playing video games by yourself and learning to just love and spend time with yourself. And I think that is very much needed, especially in a time when, you know, you're having like these identities going on where you form opinions with certain groups, and you can very much fall into the rabbit hole of this mob mentality where you have to think a certain way and believe a certain thing, despite, you know, you may not necessarily agreeing with that, or in worst cases, feeling ostracized. And by accepting yourself, being in a lonely state, you find ways to overcome that. And I think that's what Kirito does so well, is like, he has a bunch of different groups going. There's like a bunch of different clans, and yes, he will join small parties at times. But where I think he learns to overcome all these things is with just the pure acceptance of, this is my reality, I'm going to be by myself because no one will really understand my position, because I was a beta tester and I've seen things that others haven't, and people are going to feel like I have an advantage over them and I'm selfish. Well, I'm going to accept those things, and I'm going to very much be ostracized, but I'm still going to find chances to display friendship and display instances of happiness despite me being alone, and getting these cool artifacts and learning tricks for myself. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think this idea that selfishness is also something that is very negative is very harmful, especially for people who are trying to gain some self-confidence that really end up relying on groups. I think that is very unhealthy, and sometimes breaking free of that and having your own free will and finding like truly being happy with who you are and your own and I guess your own existence is something that is very much needed and emphasized. And don't get me wrong, I'm the guy who loves Fairy Tail. I've announced it publicly on my channel. I am a big fan of Fairy Tail. That includes Power of Friendship and being a part of a community that is amazing. I'm not going to take away anything from that. But on the flip side, there are times when you are going to be by yourself, and you need to appreciate those times and pull yourselves by the bootstraps and learn to love yourself. Because when no one's there, who's going to support you? When you are by yourself, who's going to bring those positive emotions? And what is going to end up being self-destructive can be your solution. If you learn to break free and turn that loneliness, which is a state of mind, and it is a period where you can feel very harshly on yourself because you are your own harshest critic. There are times when you can break free of that and just appreciate the time that you have with yourself. And as someone who does spend a lot of time by himself, even despite me having sort of like despite me having such a relationship with the online community, I'm still by myself in my room. I'm just making videos, especially these pre-recorded ones. Like, look right here. I'm just talking to a camera. There's no one in the room but me. I'm just talking to no one. But I'm still enjoying myself. And it could be just me loving Kirito. I don't know. It's just, I have my own opinions. I love myself because I am awesome. I'm the greatest Fairy Tail fan ever. I love Sword Art Online unabashedly, and no one can take that away from me. Just something about just reassuring yourself of that, I think, is what is very powerful and very important. And with a lot of shows now that emphasize teamwork and being a part of a community, I think that's fine. I'm gonna be completely honest. But I also don't like just completely accepting surrounding yourself with people as the solution to all your problems. Because sometimes the solution to your problems is something that's going to take yourself to overcome. You're only going to overcome your own loneliness if you take those steps in stride by recognizing that you are in a very bad place, and you learn to overcome those by keeping yourself busy, being productive, self-reflecting on the things that go on in your life, and becoming let's be honest here. Let's become leaders in our own circles, because the way I like to do it, like I come up with this metaphor a lot. So I have this theory, and it's two things that run this world. There are kingdoms and countries. And countries is very self-explanatory. It's the laws that we live in. It's very external. Like, I live in the United States. We have certain laws. We have a governing body. And we live under those particular set of rules. And yet, no duh, it's that's just the reality of the world. But where I think people miss the second part is something that I think is equally as powerful as those governing bodies, and that are kingdoms. And I believe every single person has a kingdom. And you are the king or queen or ruler of your own kingdom. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, your kingdom is going to be made up of you. You have your own castle, you have your own people, and the people that are around you, your citizens, are the people in your inner circle. And despite them being your citizens, they also are kingdoms of their other. So it's a little bit weird the way I like to look at it. So everyone has their kingdom, everyone's a king, but you're all friends and you still interact, and you come and go, you have your own inner circle, and they make up your citizens. But at the end of the day, you get to control everything that happens in your kingdom, and your kingdom is your life. Everything that happens, the people you choose to surround yourself or distance, that is part of your duty as the ruler of your kingdom. I feel like this is what SAO is about, is Kirito has its own kingdom. He chooses who to interact with, whether to join a guild or not, or clans or not, and he clearly doesn't want to join clans. He wants to focus on doing his own thing, which I think is admirable. Like, that's all a part of him. And I feel like a lot of people forget the fact that they are in control of their own lives. For example, there are a lot of people who still think that they are peasants or citizens, and that they have to look up to someone to make that decision, whether it's your parents or friends or the head of your friend group. That's not necessarily a good thing. That reliance, I think, is very toxic and will end poorly just for everyone if you just keep relying on that. Where I think you can overcome that is by realizing and coming to that conclusion yourself. You have much, much more value than you like to let on. And by accepting that, by choosing to view yourself in such higher regard, that you are a king, you could do whatever you want. You can have all the fun in the world. It's really just up to you. You can go ahead and do that. And I think just the idea of that and not really accepting that nowadays, or like talking about these things, I think is something that I think SAO really touches on that I think a lot of people miss. So yeah, that's pretty much my thing on SAO. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, if you agree, disagree. I know a lot of people love SAO, and I know a lot of people who hate it, so I'd love to see that balance in the comments, and I'd love to hear your own thoughts. If you agree or disagree, I'd still love to hear it. And before we wrap up today's video, here are the SAO picks of the week. Log Horizon is a show I'm going to bring up because it's very similar to Sword Art Online. Now, Sword Art Online may be the godfather for the isekai genre in anime, but shortly after came Log Horizon. And Log Horizon is, if you don't like sort of SAO and its storytelling and its arcs, I would highly recommend checking Log Horizon, because I think a lot more people are bigger fans of the arcs in Log Horizon. They also like the main character, because he's not like Kirito, he's not a block of wood. He actually has a personality and goals and ambitions. And it is one of the most effective isekais I have seen when it comes to building communities and being a kingdom seed isekai, where you're building a paradise from the ground up in this fantasy world, learning different magic, learning how to work with other people and build alliances. It is the perfect fantasy show, and I've talked about it in the past on my channel, but if you want to check this one out, I highly recommend. It is a great fantasy, and more people should be watching it, especially because season 3 ended and they did take a little bit of a break. There hasn't been any season 4 announcements just because they had to let the manga catch up ahead. But yeah, I would still check it out because it's still a very interesting show and brings up a lot of interesting questions. Lookism is a Korean manhwa that was adapted into an anime, so coming in with Tower of God, God of High School, and all these Korean manhwa. This was one that was adapted by Netflix. And when it comes to Netflix shows, it's either a hit or miss. I'm going to be completely honest. There's some that I absolutely love, like Romantic Killer is another great one. But they also have some sinkers here and there, like Record of Ragnarok. So it really depends with Netflix, but luckily with Lookism, they actually did it justice, I think. The manhwa, yeah, is going to be better, but in terms of an adaptation, it's fairly decent. I love the story, I love the characters, and I love the whole message of accepting yourself and working on yourself and being a good person, especially when you when you have a miserable life and you end up turning your life around and you actually end up helping people who were in a similar position as you in the past. I just think that message is great and it's very wholesome, so definitely check this one out if you are interested in more Korean manhwa anime adaptations. Death Parade is a show that I think a lot of people should be talking about because it is something that will make you rethink your entire life. It has a big twist that really is reflective of themes of life and death. It has themes about love and hate and how to really appreciate the times that you have with the people around you. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it kind of ties into SAO with the whole loneliness situation, where learning to live with yourself and becoming your own individual person will lead to a better outcome. Death Parade touches on that too, where it tells you to cherish that time you have, and really you're only responsible for how your life turns out, because at the end of the day, if you give up, then of course your life is going to be awful. And there's some things you can't control, absolutely, but for the most part, if you keep your head held up high, you can make a bigger change than what you think actually will happen. And that wraps up my SEO picks for the week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.